In this early phase of summer, it can be a wonderful time to visit your local woodland areas. Generally, the colours tend to be really vibrant and punchy, particularly the greens in all that lush and fresh vegetation across the forests. And I've come to a location today that fits the bill perfectly. It's a beautiful, secluded little valley here. It's just got lush green ferns clinging to both sides, and it's just got a really secluded kind of feel to it. It's almost kind of like a rainforest. I know that's probably pushing the description a little bit far, the Isle of Man rainforest, but honestly, there's not many other places on this island that fit the bill quite like this. It's just such a vibrant green bit of forest here. And it's been raining over the last couple of hours, and rain tends to be great for locations like this for two reasons. Reason one is rain tends to bring out and accentuate the colours in the forest scene, particularly in mosses. And reason two is the overcast conditions that accompany rain create a really flat, even light, which is perfect for photographing woodland scenes. After a little exploration, I found an eye-catching waterfall that would act as a foreground and main focal point for a composition. Setting my tripod up in the middle of the flowing water allowed me to shoot upstream, positioning the waterfall centre bottom with the lush forest in the backdrop. I felt a 5:4 crop would really excel for this particular scene. With this composition, I'm going to be shooting with a circular polarizer, which really comes into its own in situations like this because it takes the sheen off all the vegetation and all the rocks and off the river, and it really helps the colours across the forest scene to just punch out so vibrantly and strongly. It really looks absolutely superb with a polarizer on. But it comes with inherent challenges. This is a very low light situation as it is, but the circular polarizer itself cuts out a stop and a half of light approximately, which is problematic because I don't really want to be shooting with super long shutter speeds here because I don't want that cotton candy effect on the water. Likewise, I don't want to be shooting with really high ISOs because I'm going to degrade the image quality. Also, I don't want to shoot too wide with my aperture, otherwise I'm going to obliterate my depth of field through the scene. So you can see there's problems here with this low light. So what I'm going to have to do here is take a range of different exposures, blend them together, and the exposures are going to be targeted to specific parts of the actual image to try and bring out the best in those and really tailor the settings to each part of the image. And I'm thinking to get this shot exactly how I want it, we could be looking at 4 to 5 images. I'm pleased how the final image has turned out, as I feel it captures the atmosphere of this magical little location. The polarizer worked well, if anything too well, as I actually had to reduce colour saturation in post-processing. In the end I combined 5 different 14mm exposures together, which sounds a little extravagant, but let me explain. My first shot focused in on the waterfall itself and was geared to capturing some nice crisp movement in the foreground water, with a shutter speed of 1/4 of a second. I had to open my aperture to f6.3 and raise my ISO to 400 to expose this properly. The resulting shallow depth of field led me to take a second shot at exactly the same settings, but this time focused in on the boulders right at the front of the scene. I could then focus stack these 2 images together to have nice pin sharpness across my foreground. 90% of the foreground was exposed nicely, but this small, deeply shaded area in the bottom left under the falls was clipping the shadows significantly. So I shot a third exposure geared specifically to this area at f8, ISO 64 and a really long shutter speed of 13 seconds. Blending this third image in majorly improved this intricate and pretty interesting area of the scene without creating lots of noise. Next my attention moved to the backdrop. Here I wanted to capture a little more depth of field, but had to avoid overly long shutter speeds due to wind movement in the surrounding foliage. I shot this image at f8, ISO 200 with half a second shutter speed, focusing in for the midground of the scene. This was a nice exposure for the majority of the area, however the bright highlights right at the back were proving problematic. So I shot one final identical image geared to these bright areas, but this time underexposed by 1 stop. Blending all 5 images together is certainly a little more work, but the final result is one of sharpness front to back, nicely exposed water and balanced high dynamic range, which just wouldn't have been possible in one exposure. At highly dynamic and challenging scenes such as the one I shot today, dissecting and breaking your composition down into multiple sub-exposures can be a powerful technique to get the results you desire without making compromises. Something definitely worth keeping in mind. But that's a wrap for today's video, so thanks very much for watching and I'll see you all next time.